how to retire with 7 figures as a coach and the shortcut to get there. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Shoney Show, and today we're talking about how to retire with 7 figures as a coach and the shortcut to get there, so that you don't have to wait 40 years or 50 years to be able to say, hey, I've got 7 figures put aside, retirement is going to be good, I've got options, I've got this, that, the other. If you want to be in that position and you want to be there in the shortest time possible, I've got a 3-step system that is going to help you get there, even if you're a coach that never breaks the 10K mark per month. Okay, so this is not just for coaches hitting 50K a month, 70K a month, 100K a month, or anything like that. This is actually about how you can end up with 7 figures sitting there, 7 figures that you can draw from, and you can do that in 15 years, even if you never break through 10K months. Now, I'm not saying that any coach should try not to break through 10K months. I think there's a lot of opportunity for all coaches and just people in general to have more income, and more income tends to, if it is not correlated with immensely more stress, it usually gives you more options for you, your family, people around you, and different bits and pieces. I am just trying to put things in a position where most people can see the light of how they can get somewhere in a certain amount of time and back it up by data of the last 100 years, so that you can see that this is not just, hey, opportunistic moment right here, here's what to do right now. This is what has worked over the last 100 years, and you can use it today inside your coaching business so that you can actually set yourself a target of hitting 7 figures plus as actual cash that you can draw from, and having that put aside so that you don't have to retire early. But if you get to the position where you, for instance, had 7 figures put aside as a coach, it would give you the opportunity to say, hey, we're in that position now. If I decide to coach, it's going to be 100% as choice. So albeit that I'm sure that the majority of people that actually watch this channel right here love coaching.
Me? I love coaching.
At the same time, there's probably an element of the thing I love is also the thing that provides my mortgage payments, provides for my family, provides for this, provides for that, lifestyle, anything that is important to you. However, if you get to that stage where you've got all of that put aside, then you're going to be in a position where anything that you do going forward is something that is 100% choice. It's going to be more enjoyable to coach when you know that it is not predicated on the revenue that you generate, but it's just something that you like to do, and that is a great position for you to be in. So 3-step process here to retire in 15 years time, optionally, with 7 figures put aside without ever breaking 10K a month inside your coaching business. Before we get to all 3 steps and get into the 3rd step, which is going to show you exactly how you get there in the 15 years, the very first thing that you need to do is increase your income. If you are a coach, and it sounds a bit counterintuitive to what I just said on the intro there, but if, for instance, you're a coach that is making £500 per month, euros or dollars, if you are making 1,000, if you're making 1,500, if you're making 2K, if you're making 3K, 4K, even 5K a month inside your coaching business, it's not there yet, okay? Your opportunity to hit these numbers in that time frame is not there yet. You don't have to break through 10K months to be able to make this happen, but you do need to be somewhere in the region of 7 to 10K months, right? To be able to make this happen, to be able to, in 15 years time, have 7 figures put aside. For you to be able to do that, you need to be in that range of 7 to 10K months. Now, just for context here, if you far surpass that and you far surpass what we're going to suggest that you do in steps 2 and step 3 here, then you can actually retire either with multiple 7 figures in 15 years, or indeed, the other way of looking at it, you could do 7 figures, but you could do it in 5 years rather than 15. Okay, it depends on where you take your coaching business. Step 1 is going to massively determine the time frame. Is it going to be 15 years? Is it going to be 10 years? Is it going to be 5 years? And also, is it going to be 7 figures? Is it going to be multi-7 figures? Is it going to be a lot more than that? Okay, that's going to be determined by the revenue that you have inside your coaching business. So if you're not focused upon increasing your income inside your coaching business so that you can have the opportunity to do steps 2 and 3 here, then this has to happen first. The crazy thing is, step 2 and step 3 are super easy. They're super quick to do. All you need to know is a very basic amount of knowledge about how to do it, which I'm going to share inside this video. Step 1, however, you can't do step 2 and 3 without step 1 being taken care of. So if you have not focused on building profitable, repeatable systems in your coaching business that can generate leads and sales for your coaching business consistently, and not just avoid those yo-yo months, but also have consistent growth within your coaching business. You're not going to be able to do step 2 and 3. You're not going to be able to get to the outcome that we're talking about, which is 7 figures put aside in 15 years time or less. You're not going to be able to do that unless you increase your income and get into that bracket of 7 to 10k months. Okay, so if you get into 7 to 10k months, you can achieve what we're talking about here in theory based upon the data of the last 100 years. The other thing to really take into account here is when we're talking about increasing the revenue, you need to stay consistent with it. So many coaches will have the odd really good month, and it's a month where they turn the dimmer switch up, they put their foot on the gas, they try something and it works even though it's not a repeatable system. Maybe it's just the month of the year. January is a really good month for certain types of coaches, end of year is really good for other types of coaches. It might just be circumstantial that they have that really good month, right? So just because you've had a 7 to 10k month, for instance, does not mean that you can achieve this. This is about consistency over that time period. And if you want consistency in the months inside your coaching business and maintaining a high revenue number inside your coaching business, you need profitable, repeatable systems that you can rely on every single month inside your business for generating leads and sales. Okay, you need a small handful. We've got 160 fully templated inside the private coaching, but we cherry pick the perfect 3 to 5 strategies for each coach individually, because no two coaches are the same. These cookie cutter mentorships out there where everybody starts at step 1, everybody does step 2, everybody does step 3. I don't even know how they exist, because every single coach is completely different. Even two coaches in the exact same space, helping the same demographic, have different goals, have different lifestyles, have different ways of coaching. They have different wants and needs. Do they want to do a group? Do they want to do one-to-one? Do they want to sell at premium? Do they want to sell lower? Do they want to work with older demographic, younger, men, women? So many things are different, which is why you need the perfect strategies for you. And when you find those repeatable, profitable, and scalable systems, you need to zero in on them, build them into a repeatable format that you can do every single month, to know that you've got 3 to 5 great ways to generate clients every single month, and then you want to scale them. Okay, so once you've got those working systems, you want to ask 2 questions. How can I do this more frequently, or how can I get more people through it each time that I do it? Those 2 things help you scale. And by the way, if you're sitting between 7 and 10k a month inside your coaching business after you implement this, or indeed just today, for instance, then when you have your repeatable systems that you know you can rely on month, the really cool thing is that simple scaling tool there, those 2 questions that you need to ask yourself, can take you to that 11k, 12k, 13k, 14k, 15k a month, which allows you to accelerate this process that we're talking about here as well. Very first thing, most important, because you can't do the other steps without doing step number 1, is to increase your income through repeatable, profitable, and scalable systems. And if you don't have them, reach out to us. We'll even jump onto a 6-week game plan builder call with you, completely for free. We won't even pitch at the end of it. You can't sign up to our program on the other end of it. We do these because we know that within 20 or 30 minutes, we can set out a plan that can actually get leads and sales for coaches that will far surpass anything that they've paid for in the past from other mentorships. And on the other side of that, usually not even at the end of 6 weeks, usually within a week, 2 weeks, or 3 weeks, the coach gets back to us and says, wow, that absolutely blew my mind. This is what's happened. How can I work closely with you? So it's a win-win situation. There's no pressure to do so, but I'll drop it down below in case you want to jump onto one of those calls. Step 2 is all about knowing how to manage your money. And it comes in 2 steps. It comes from the business, and it also comes from your personal expenditure. There's something called lifestyle creeps. And lifestyle creeps is when somebody increases their income. We see this quite often, and we have to, maybe even have conversations that we don't advertise with some of our coaches, because so many coaches come in and work with us and they will double, triple, quadruple, 5x their income in a short space of time. And in that moment, you can feel so unbelievably rich because you've just been used to a certain amount of revenue coming into your business. Most of these coaches, for instance, will not take into account, number 1, taxation. Taxation, it scales with your income, right? So as you start to increase your income, you then go into the next tax bracket. So they sometimes don't take that into account. They sometimes don't take into account other expenses that they have inside their business. But they also will look at things outside of their business, and they'll start to look at things as, yeah, we can afford that, we can do this, we can do that. And they start to scale at the same pace, or sometimes even quicker than the growth of their income. Like, for instance, some people will triple their income, but they'll 4x their lifestyle.
The math doesn't add up.
So they'll actually end up with a tax bill, and they're like, I can't pay for this. How did I just 3x my revenue and now I can't even pay my tax bill? Is because their lifestyle has increased dramatically alongside it. And I'm not the type of person that says that you shouldn't increase your lifestyle. I think that if you have worked really hard to double your income, triple your income, 4x or 5x your income, you 100% should be increasing your lifestyle. You should experience the fruits of your labor. I think it's essential for you, the people around you. I think it drives you forward. But it shouldn't be a perfect match alongside how you're increasing your income. If you want to hit the targets that we're talking about inside this video, then that isn't going to work. If you find a way to be broke at the end of the month and live paycheck to paycheck when you're earning 3K a month, if you do not change your spending habits and how you manage money, you are going to be broke at 10K a month. You're going to be broke at 20K a month because you're going to find ways to get rid of that money. So you need to raise your identity as somebody who doesn't just have higher earned income, but also has the ability to save it and multiply it on the other side. So you need to take a close look as you are increasing your income at how you're managing your money, mainly in your personal life. And that's the most important part, because so many people draw from it and they buy the car, they buy the watch, they buy the super expensive holiday. A really important thing here is to say that if you love cars, you should probably get a better car. If you love watches, if you genuinely love watches, and it's not so that you can post it on Instagram and show it off to somebody else, but you actually love watches, then you should probably have a nicer watch than you had originally, okay? It's absolutely fine for those things. Some people think that just because I say that I've got no mad interest in cars or fancy things, that I think that other people shouldn't have those things. It's not that at all. Like, I still wear a nice watch, but it's my granddad's watch. Unfortunately, when he passed away, he passed it down to me, and so I wear it so that I've always got my granddad with me, right? But I would be lying to say that I don't actually like watches. I actually like watches. I like nice watches, but it just isn't within my financial plan to go and buy the types of watches that I historically have liked. Can I afford them? Yes. Could I go and buy one today? Yes. Is it within my financial plan? No, it's not. And so sometimes you just need to look at your financial planning and say, okay, just because I can afford something now doesn't mean that I need to buy it. You need to work out if you're a lifestyle creep or if you are just experiencing some additional fruits of your labor, because being diligent with your finances right now massively affects where you're going to be in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years time. Are you still going to be living paycheck to paycheck, or indeed are you going to be in an incredible position like we're talking about here 15 years time without ever breaking 10K a month inside your coaching business and having 7 figures, over 1 million available to you to literally draw from? If you're going to be able to do that, number 1 is increase your income. Number 2 is to get good with your money, is to learn how to save effectively, manage your money effectively so that you have a surplus. And that surplus takes us to step number 3, and that is to invest your money on the other side.
Blue chip time.
Simply saving and having a savings account just leaves you susceptible to inflation. If inflation right now, I think in the US, they've managed to get it a good bit more under control, but it's still about 4.5% per year. That means that the price of houses, that means that the price of bread and milk, that means that the price of your holiday, your flight, your this, that, the other, on average is coming out at 4.5% higher every single year. And by the way, that compounds. So when it's the new price, it's 4.5% of the new price the next year, and of the new price the year after that, and so on and so forth. The target inflation is around 3%, which hopefully they'll get back to. But as it stands at the moment, money just sitting in a savings account is technically losing money, whereas invested money can grow and compound on a month-to-month and a year-to-year basis on your behalf. Now, I need to point out at this stage, this is not financial advice. This is just exactly what I do. I'm not a registered financial advisor, so I'm just sharing what specifically I do personally and what a lot of people that we work with inside Systems of Scale. So people who are already well into 6 figures, some are already in multi-six, deep multi-six, or even 7 figures, and they're looking to go to their next income bracket. This is some of the things that we work on in our private masterminds. Is stuff like this, is also not just how they continue to increase their income, how they build teams, how they build scalability, and how they take things to 7 figures plus, but also how they save their money, how they invest their money so that it multiplies over time. There's many different things that you can do with investing. You can, of course, invest in things like property. Some people, and this seems to be so common in the coaching spaces, investing in Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. But things like cryptocurrencies are super, super high risk. Sure, this video could go out right now, and in 5 years' time, the best investment you could have possibly made might be Bitcoin, but it also might be the thing that takes every single penny that you put into investments all the way to zero. right? I saw a lot of coaches 2 years ago telling me as they were scaling to over 6 figures a month inside their coaching business that they are watching their pennies as well, because they were taking all of their money out and they were investing it in Bitcoin. And that was when it was at 60,000 or 65,000 or something along the lines of that. And they were talking about how it was going to go to 200, 300,000, 400,000, 500,000, and it's just going to double and triple and quadruple. And then what happened? It absolutely crashed all the way down to, 18 or 17,000, and they lost all of that money, right? And they're in a right pickle now as well. So albeit that I'm not saying that you shouldn't invest in what you want to invest in, I'm just going to say the boring route and how it works out mathematically based on 100 years of data. So there's a thing called an index fund. If you're not familiar with it, an example of an index fund is the S&P 500. That's the one that I invest in the most, albeit that I'm in 3 different index funds to spread bets even more. S&P 500 is essentially the top 500 companies in the US, and it's owning a little piece of the pie of each of those top 500 companies, okay? So instead of you having an individualized stock, which even when something sounds great, so you say, oh, I want to own, a slice of Apple. Well, what if something happens and Apple stock goes down by 50%? Maybe some sort of lawsuit comes out, or there's a massive recall of every single iPhone of the last 3 years because they realize that they're toxic, right? Whatever it may be, if something like that was to happen, putting all your money in an individualized stock can end up in going to zero as well, okay? Whereas when you're in an index fund, the thing is that these companies don't tend to double, triple, quadruple, 5x in the space of a year, okay? But they also tend to outperform the majority of smaller businesses, right? And they outperform the growth of the market itself and inflation by quite a significant amount. And when you spread your bets across 500 companies and they're all high quality companies, you end up with 2 things. Number 1 is consistency of growth. And second of all is that, let's say that one of them goes out of business. I just use that example there of one of those companies who is in the S&P 500. You've got Apple, you've got Amazon, you've got Tesla, you've got all of these big chunky Coca-Colas and all of those ones in there, Disney and so on and so forth. They can go to zero. Many great companies have gone to zero. But here's the cool thing. When you own something like the S&P 500, because you have 500 companies there that you own a little slice of, if one company goes out of business or has a really terrible year, the other 499 are there to balance it out and continue moving forward. And that's why the S&P 500 in the last 100 years has averaged a 10% return each year. Some years it's lower, some years it's significantly higher. But over the course of the long term, and that's what this type of investing is. It's investing for the long term. It's consistently adding to the pot and allowing it to continue to grow over time. Okay, so the S&P 500 is one of the most popular ones, the top 500 companies in the US. You can own a piece of the pie of each of those, and you can invest into those on a month-to-month basis. Now, I just want to show you some of the maths here, and I'll probably throw this up on screen. I'll take some screenshots so that you can see what I'm looking at here. When you look at an investment return calculator, so I use Smart Asset all the time. It's really simple, and it's basically like an index fund calculator in a sense, because what you're really doing with this is just doing the maths of the average return of said thing that you're investing in, okay? And like I say, you can invest in treasuries and it's even more guaranteed, but treasuries are like 4% to 4.5% right now, okay? You can invest in these, which is about 10%, slightly more risky, but in the long term, historic data tells us 100 years of data is a good amount of data. Averaging over a 10% return is a great return over time. Here's the math that comes out here. When you have that coaching business that's doing 9K, right? So 9K every single month inside your coaching business. If you were to be able to invest 2,500 per month, okay, so a lot of people, if you have never invested at all, that's going to sound like a lot. You're going to go, 2,500 a month? Like that's absolutely, that's a lot of money. Yes, it is a lot of money, but you're also probably spending on a lot of places where it is just not required whatsoever, and that 2,500 is probably easily found if you've got a coaching business that's at 9K. You might have already committed to a very, very expensive house with a very, very expensive mortgage, for instance, and that's a position that you found yourself in, and maybe that just takes you back to step 1, which is I need to increase my income. which allows you to find that 2,500 in surplus again, okay? But 2,500 as an example here, because for a coach that's doing 8, 9 or close to 10K per month inside their coaching business, is probably, with some due diligence on their personal spending habits, is going to be able to find 2,500 that they can invest into something like an index fund, okay? Index fund calculator, look here on the left-hand side. Starting amount, 2,500. So that's you putting your first 2,500 in this month, for instance. Then, what is the additional contribution? 2,500 per month. Okay, so as you can see, this is consistently investing. Okay, over time, it has been shown that people who try to time the market, try to find the big dips in the market and aren't in the market for that reason, those people don't tend to win the best over time. The people that tend to win the best over time are the people who are consistent with their investing, whether the market is up, down, or indifferent, because over a long period of time in the market beats time in the market. Okay, so 2,500, then every single month you do 2,500. The rate of return, let's say 10%, 100 years of data, and that is taken into account world wars. That's taken in multiple world wars. That's taken into account, actually, no, not multiple world wars now, is it? No, it wouldn't be. It would be one world war. Now would be within that. You also have on top of that the Great Depression. You also have the 2008 crisis. You have so many things that have happened over that time period that have been really terrible moments for the economy, for the markets, and the market has crashed, but it has always come back and more. Okay, and so as long as you're not the type of person that's going to put money in and then try and take money out 14 days later, you can invest over a long period of time, and then you can get these types of annualized average returns. Like I said, one year you might get a 2% return, the next year you might get a 27% return, but over 5, 10, 15-year periods, it averages out most typically. That's what you see when you look at the last 10 years, when you look at the last 20 years, when you look at the last 30 years, when you look at the last 40 years. It usually hovers anywhere in those time periods between 9.5% and 13%. Over the last 100 years, it averaged just over 10% per year. Okay, so when you plug in 2,500 per month at an annualized return rate of 10%, compounding, and you give it 15 years to grow, how much do you have in the pot at the end of that? £1,047,311, euros or dollars, depending upon what currency you went in with. Now, if you were to move that to, for instance, 5K, you would end up with 2,094,621. Now, something else to consider here is that at that point, that isn't just a savings account now. So let's say that we went back to the 2,500 example. You've got just over $1 million there. Well, at this stage, you have actually only contributed 450,000. 594,811 pounds, euros, or dollars has come from the interest earned. That is the power of compounding. Here's the really cool thing. When you're at that stage there, if you were to get an average annualized return of 10% or more, now that you have $1 million in there, your return rate can be over 100,000 per year, okay? So you could actually be keeping this sitting around 7 figures continuously while still drawing 6 figures per year pre-tax. And here's the more exciting thing as well that most people won't realize is that if you hold an investment for over 12 months, you get long-term capital gains tax, which means that you get taxed at a different tax rate than earned income. Okay, so if, for instance, you bought Tesla stock or Amazon stock or Apple stock and you sold it after 7 months, it goes into your earned income. If your tax rate is 45% at the top end, you're going to get taxed 45% on that earned income. Okay, whereas if you've held it for over a year, and we're talking about 15 years here, so if you've held it for over a year, you're going to be able to take that out, and in the US today, at time of recording, it's 21%. And you're only getting taxed on the gains. Remember, you've put in a lot of that money there, so you might only be getting taxed on 60,000 of the 100,000 that you've taken out, and at 21%, which means that you might be keeping close to 90,000 of the 100K that you've just taken out. There's so many things that are beneficial about starting today, Even if it wasn't $2,500, if it was $100 per month, there are so many benefits to starting this today and putting in the automatic payments for this to go out every single month. And that's a personal opinion, not financial advice. Okay? If you are not already doing step one and increasing your income to allow a surplus to occur, step one needs to be done before anything else. If you want to work with us on helping you do that, and we always help people before they ever join up to our programs, either through a 6-week game plan call completely for free, or you can come and work with us in a 7 or 10 day capacity at a very low cost. And I'm talking super low cost. Anybody could afford this, even if you're a brand new coach, and we'll literally show you what we're capable of doing with you that you've never experienced elsewhere. So if you want to do any of those things, I'll drop it down below so that you can come and increase your earned income with us. And then on top of that, you need to get your money straight. You need to treat your personal income like a business, right? Know what's going in, what's going out, and making sure that you're not becoming a lifestyle creep. And as your earned income goes up, that your expenses go significantly up as well. You need to keep tabs on this so you can create that surplus. And then step 3 is to learn to not just save, but multiply your money. You can do whatever you want in terms of your investments. This is not even to say that you should do index funds. This is not even to say that you should do the S&P 500, but this is something with 100 years of data behind it, which is why I'm using this example. And second reason why I'm using this example is because I am a boring investor and I do this as well. I invest every single month into the S&P 500. It compounds over time and it grows a really nice pot alongside all of the earned interest that happens on the other side of it as well. If you're a coach and you want to be able to in 15 years time have over $1 million in surplus there you can literally draw from, and you want to be able to do that in 15 years time, even if you never break 10K a month inside your coaching business, this is a 3-step system that with 100 years of data would tell you that this can happen. So if this has been valuable to you, please drop down below a like, subscribe if you're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or indeed on YouTube. And if you have any questions, I would absolutely love you to drop down into the comments. I always love to come back and bounce with anybody in there as well. Other than that, have a great day, and I'll see you on the next episode of The Shoney Show.